So, you want to know about the Cipher Crusade Beyond Good and Evil. Where do I even begin? A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, there's a cat. Hello, cat.
And so, you come to Randall to fix problem.
Yes.
You never invite Randall for coffee. You never show Randall respect.
Well, I got a giraffe for you.
You never give Randall giraffe before. Randall no need stinky giraffe.
Everyone needs a giraffe.
Just ask Randall, and Randall will smash.
I'd like you to smash yourself.
What say you?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
What do you say?
Oh, please, Lord Powerful Randall, smash yourself.
There. Randall deliver.
Look at his hat.
The overall inspiration for the Crusaders basically comes from the Avengers. As soon as I found out like Marvel was doing this whole connected universe thing, it was a big inspiration, you know, because it's like that's an incredible achievement to connect this huge universe of characters together, and you know, go the distance with it. Although I was more of a Spider-Man fan growing up, I branched off into other sources of, you know, comic book characters, looked into other literature sources, big fan of Sherlock Holmes, James Bond. But when Marvel was doing this whole connected universe thing, I was like, you know, wow, wouldn't that be really cool? Wouldn't that be really, really cool to do a sort of kind of my own connected universe, my own superheroes? But I was just at the time, you know, in 2010, just not sure how I wanted to go about it. I was just kind of like, I don't even know what I'm doing practically. I just graduated high school. So, be honest, I was kind of not ready to embark on such an endeavor, even in a low quality, low budget field. So, I met Zach in middle school, 7th grade. When I met him, he was still trying to figure out what he wanted to do, and when I introduced the idea of film to him, he actually found that he had quite the knack for filmmaking. So we started out by making some amateur productions, really bad stuff, but hey, you know, this was just starting out. We were just starting out, so you know. 2011, I met Conan, and it was a very mysterious, very mysterious first meeting. I was just browsing YouTube when I noticed that I had a new message, and it was from Fighting Leaf. And in his email, he asked anyone who was subscribed to him to send a I Believe in Fighting Leaf video clip to him for a very special video he was working on. What's mysterious about this is that I never subscribed to Fighting Leaf, and yet I got a message. So, I can't explain it. Fate, destiny, who knows? An accident? Go figure. So, after that, you know, after perusing some of his videos and seeing that he, you know, really wanted to make something of himself, I asked him if he wanted to do a crossover review because I had just started trying to do reviews myself. And, we slowly became friends, and after that, I contacted Zach and him and then said, hey, you guys want to do an interactive adventure just for fun? We're just going to get together and as our respective characters and save the internet. That's what we're doing. We'll call ourselves the Crusaders.
I was actually part of the original creation of the Cipher Crusade when we actually first started, when we brought it out in 2010, I believe. And that's when myself, Sean, and Fighting Leaf actually joined together and created the Cipher Crusade, and basically that spiraled into what we know and love today as the Crusader series with Cipher Crusade 2, also the current project we just made.
Honestly, I kind of forget how it happened. All I know is that these couple of weirdos on the internet showed up and said, hey, you want to do a collaboration video? And I checked out their videos, I saw that they weren't complete total morons, and thought, hey, this could be fun, why not? And so, we did it, it was fun, and from there, we decided to do more of these collaborative efforts, and then Sean brought up, hey, I have an idea for something called the Cipher Crusade. And I thought, hey, that actually sounds pretty cool. I want to be involved in something cool, and so I got involved in something cool. And it only got cooler and cooler from there. Isn't that cool?
I'm actually the kind of person who does like most of the voices that you actually hear in the not only Cipher Crusade series, but also the main Crusader series. You actually do hear a lot of, like, I play almost like a lot of the voices. Like, I remember in Cipher Crusade 2, I actually played like 98% of all the voices except for like one. And that was just a quick cameo from Malthus in that. But it was still a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun with that.
Nothing can adequately qualitate or quantify the things that I contribute to this team. Because what I contribute to the team, it's more than just talent. It's more than just my dashing good looks. You know what, cut that out. I'm gonna try again. For the longest time, I have been the team artist. For the longest time, I was the only team artist. And so I had to put a lot of that talent to good work. Now, if you've seen my stuff on my Fighting Leaf DeviantArt account, you'll know that it's actually pretty bad. However, if you contrast that with my Conan Bell artist account, DeviantArt account, you'll know that I actually do have some artistic skill on some level, so that I use to make Sean's posters a lot of the time. I also contribute a great deal of writing revision for Sean's scripts, and I have provided a lot of natural humor to help spice things up a little bit, although Sean has progressively needed less and less of my help on that front.
So we did the first Cipher Crusade, and a lot of people actually did enjoy it. For all its faults, a lot of people were very pleased with it. They had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun making it. And, after that, it kind of became this, success. I think it was like the first successful thing like I had ever really made, because the first thing actually, in a long time, graced past, 1,000 views. And after that, I got to thinking there might be potential here for this makeshift team, because we have like my character who's kind of like this detective type character, the reluctant hero, the hero who was just kind of like, oh, by the way, you've got to save the world now. Well, I'm just a normal guy, Leaf is a super powerful ninja. Zach plays Dr. Menace, the eccentric genius and explorer. So I thought, hey, there's potential here, and we've got our own, enemies, our villains. So why not, why not go the distance? Let's try and make something out of this. So that's really how the Crusaders were born.
In terms of personal reactions, when we finished the first one, was that it was sort of to me like, didn't really seem like we were making like a huge major project. It just seemed like I was making something for fun. I actually remember that I was actually the very first one who actually uploaded all of their clips in terms of editing content. Nowadays, I'm like usually the last one. Like, complete contrast of what it is nowadays, wouldn't you say?
Well, to be honest, the first Cipher Crusade was not particularly emotional for me. I was just putting together my usual ham-fisted comedy together. I was filming whenever I could while I was in Japan, and once it all came together, it was first of all, it wasn't on my channel, so it wasn't something I could just, you know, it didn't feel like it was mine personally, although part of it was. But it was really just business as usual as far as I was concerned. It's like, yep, this is the next thing that we did, and it was kind of an awesome thing. What's next?
Originally, we wanted to do the first Cipher Crusade in 2011, the second Cipher Crusade in 2012, and the third in 2013. That wasn't the case. We had begun planning Cipher Crusade 2, or CC2 as it became known, like practically right after the first one was done. We had done the Counterplay miniseries, and now we were ready to tackle Cipher Crusade 2. However, some things came up. There was school. I know Conan was finishing up school. I had just gotten into community college. And worst of all, my grandmother had stage 4 cancer. So while I tried to write the script for the Cipher Crusade 2, it just, nothing came to me. No ideas were coming. I just kept, coming up with one idea, and then I was like, that's not good enough. One thing that stayed in each draft of the Cipher Crusade 2 was Xavier. Zach had created this character a while ago, and we never got a chance to use him. So I thought, now's the perfect time to develop a story for this guy and use him as an important plot-driving character for Cipher Crusade 2.
The character Xavier, it's interesting on how I created that. Originally, I actually had a screenplay that I made in which that he would actually be discovered in a block of ice, sort of the origin of Captain America. And originally his name was Xavier Boxton, in which that he was a parody off the name Xbox. But in the end, that entire thing got scrapped, and after a lot of reworking and retooling, we then reformed him into Xavier, into the character we know today. And I have to say, I'm very excited of how he turned out.
The first draft, which later kind of turned into the draft that ended up being the final draft, was the Crusaders were going to chase Xavier into the Garden of Eden, and there was going to be like this race to the Tree of Knowledge, but we scrapped that one. The second draft had the Congregation of Fear reuniting, and they were going to try to take over the world, but Xavier kind of intervenes, and he's got his own plan to like warp reality into something else. And Dr. Walk was going to be the final boss in that one, and that was going to be like the end of Dr. Walk's story, but we scrapped that one. Then we kind of kept that story, but moved in Malthus in place of Dr. Walk, and we didn't like that one either. The whole warping reality thing just didn't seem interesting enough. The next draft actually had... the next draft was interesting because what we were going to do was we were going to make an interactive fighting game. Interactive YouTube fighting game instead of an interactive adventure. So in other words, it was going to be like, choose your character and go down multiple pathways fighting various opponents until you get it to Xavier, and then eventually Malthus. Originally we were like, oh, this will work. This sounds like it'll be a great idea. We had just introduced Connor Faraday into the team, played by Kevin Short at the time. But again, just due to time restraints and all that, all that stuff, it just wasn't going to happen. Finally, in the summer of 2012, my grandmother passed away after fighting cancer for a little bit there, and I kind of fell into a like this. I didn't want to proceed with Cipher Crusade 2 as much as I did before. I was very... I don't know. I looked up to my grandmother a lot when I was growing up, and to have her not here anymore was, you know, a real blow to the face. It was just like, wow, you know, that person who, you know, you looked up to is gone, and you won't see her for a while. At least that's my beliefs. So, even though production on Cipher Crusade did continue, it didn't continue as smoothly as we had hoped. We continued to try and do it in live action, even though we were starting to branch into audio dramas, audio series. And after one more meetup to try and film this thing, we just kind of gave up. I mean, the whole live action stuff, I mean, the plots were just getting too big for live action. We did not have the budget or the necessary equipment, software to make this. So we had to rethink the whole strategy. We had to rethink how we were going to do this because it was just getting too big. The overall plot of Cipher Crusade 2, the final draft, goes along with one particular word, and that's resurrection. From Cipher Crusade 1 to Cipher Crusade 2, we saw them learning how to cooperate with each other. They were trying to learn how to be a team. In Cipher Crusade 2, now that they're a team, they are knocked down. They are defeated. They are almost destroyed by a superior opponent. So, even though they have friends and even old enemies who are willing to help them out, in various mythologies and superhero stories, one of the things that always has to happen to a hero is that they have to learn how to cope with defeat. They have to learn that they're not invincible. They can be defeated, and when they're defeated, they have to pick themselves up and try again. So in other words, the Crusaders are becoming the heroes that they need to be by being resurrected, by becoming better, by learning from their mistakes and picking themselves up, learning how to battle tougher foes, tougher enemies, and just becoming the heroes that they'll need to be in order to fight whatever else is coming. It's very much inspired by by Homer's Odyssey. Odysseus is away at war and then tossed off course by Poseidon, and he has to travel through the worst conditions. He has to beat the worst bad guys, the toughest bad guys, in order to make it home to his family and rescue his son and wife from a bunch of thugs. So my character has to go through his own trials in order to learn his full potential and utilize it so that he can overcome this great threat that his friends are facing at the same time.
Dr. Menace to me is not really an alter ego or like a separate persona in a way. To me, it's more of like myself if I was a superhero. Like, if I was a superhero, what would I do? What would I say? Like, how would I react to these situations? And what I really like about him is that he can just do all these amazing things that, you know, of course I can't do. And what I like to bring to this character is just, like I said, if I actually was in that situation, how would I react to it? And really gives a good chance for some good story, and I tried to base it off of a lot of things I really like, and hopefully the audience actually likes it too, just as much as I do.
I am a thespian! Seriously, I do have a good balance of dramatic talent and comedic talent, which lends it quite well to Leaf and Conan Bell's character. Leaf is a very reserved character. He doesn't like sharing any kind of emotionality of that nature, and that makes him a very good straight man. And Husky, that's where my comedic part comes in contrast. Husky, being loud and obnoxious, actually actually borrows from my own loud and obnoxious side of my personality. I have, in real life, I have been both Leaf and Husky at different times. Usually when I'm around people who are energetic and happy, I'm Leaf, and I'm miserable and sullen. But when I'm around miserable and sullen people, I'm like Husky, where I'm happy and loud. It's like, hey, look at me! I have more joy and hope in my life than you do! As far as talent goes, well, yeah, basically it's the teeter-totter between the dramatic and the comedic. As far as Leaf's motivation, he's actually kind of different from a lot of Eastern-style heroes in that he cares very much about his own personal independence. That was what motivated his breakaway from the Master before. And here is no different. Leaf has always been the kind of person to demonstrate power, even if he wasn't necessarily the boss. He wanted to be the kind of person who you can't really control. He does things his own way, and that's a very Western style take on an Eastern style concept. And Husky is his only real confidant because Husky is always there, and part of what makes Leaf trust Husky so much is the fact that Leaf technically is incapable of stabbing him in the back. It would be very hard. It is difficult, even out of story, to have both Fighting Leaf and Conan Bell as separate entities because it makes me have to live two different internet lives, and that's I'm not used to that. I'm sure there are plenty of people who do a lot more than that, but I'm not one of them. As far as in-story goes, it was inevitable. And this was definitely the right excuse to bring up, hey, there's more to Leaf than you ever thought. And I remember dropping hints here and there, like at the beginning of my Speed Racer review, that Fighting Leaf was hiding a little bit more than he was showing off. I did so in a comedic way, but here it was revealed in Leaf and Conan's typical dramatic way. As far as character development goes, Leaf's character wasn't really in a position to do very much else. He had been subjected to weakness in the noir story. He had proven himself a loyal and dependable ally many times. It was really time to show that there was something deeper to the character, and you don't really get much deeper than this. Or do you?
Now, this book of prophecies, which was just introduced, it has not been hinted at or introduced in any other Crusader-related story, is not really based on anything but the fact that my grandmother being hunted by a demonic entity, that did come from an actual story. Before my grandmother passed away, she talked to me about this one time when she was working at a hospital, because she was a nurse, I believe, for most of her life. And they had brought in a patient who was very odd. He talked to himself, he didn't seem right in the head, but he was relatively harmless. One night she was working late. I don't know if she was alone or not, but she was working out in at I think like a receptionist's desk or something, or just nearby, when she heard this scream. And she said it was unlike any creature or human. She said she truly believed that it could not have been produced by an animal, much less a human. And suddenly the guy who had been brought in comes out of the hospital, of his hospital room, and he seems to be in convulsions. Now, most doctors probably, if not all doctors, would probably say, well, he's probably just got some kind of form of mental illness, and that's why he's like this. However, my grandmother believed, being Christian, as I am, that this man was possessed. And he had come out of the room. He was banging against walls, like throwing himself against walls, and he was heading in her general direction. She feared the worst. She didn't know what this guy was going to do if he had caught her, if he had, gotten to her. So she got on her knees and started praying and basically said, Lord, please protect me, because she could not get away. At that point, after that prayer, the man suddenly fell down some stairs, which was to the side of the corridor, and when he fell, he seemed to be knocked out of that fit of rage, and everyone went to check on the guy, or I think she went to check on the guy. Again, I don't know if she was alone or not, and he was back to his old self. He didn't know why he was out in the hallway. He couldn't remember a thing. So, whether you believe that was demonic or just mental illness, that's up to you, but it provided me with the basis for the idea that a demonic entity had actually tried to kill or harm my grandmother, and that is where Malphus comes from.
Malphus was an interesting character to voice for. As I read more of the script, I began to notice just how truly evil this character really was. And it was a lot of fun to play around with. Probably my most notable work in voice acting is being able to mimic Mark Hamill's take on the Joker. And this particular voice that Hamill performs with was also used when he played the role of the Hobgoblin in the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. So I used that voice when reading for Malphus, and I think it fits perfectly. And it made voicing for the role a lot of fun.
So realizing that Cipher Crusade 2 was not going to work out as a live-action film, we decided to go the route of audio story, but we didn't want to just make it, an audio story with just, no visual aids, although we did have visuals for Guardians of Avalon. At the same time, it still needed to be more interactive, because if it wasn't, if it wasn't like moving, if it wasn't doing something, it was just going to be kind of, you might as well be reading a book. So, what happened is, while I was thinking of ways we could do it, Zach began a Let's Play series of the Ace Attorney games, the Phoenix Wright games. And I noticed how Capcom had done those, and I was like, that's perfect. We could do it like those. So, I ended up working with Kelsey Claybrook, who played Alari in Cipher Crusade 2 and Crusader Adventures Episode 11, and also Conan, Dragon Rider SES1, and Rory Griffin, to work on getting these, getting like 40 different characters with all kinds of expressions, completed and ready to go. I rewrote the script, took about 3 months, and we basically, jumped back into production, and, away we went. With release date being summer 2014.
I first became involved with the Crusaders as a whole several years ago when I was bored one day and began surfing YouTube for a free movie to watch. Ironically, I went looking for the B movie and Fighting Leaf's review, and that was his first review ever. It was the first thing to pop up on the screen after I searched it, and I remember that after that I tuned back to his channel time and time again to see if there's like if he had any new videos up, and like I had to do that since I didn't have a YouTube channel at the time. And I guess that the whole concept of a guy sitting in front of a camera talking about bad kids movies alongside a wild and crazy rebel wolf puppet kept me vastly entertained. Leaf was my first YouTube inspiration, and without him, I don't think I would have discovered my love of analysis. And later on, I was led to ZMEdia Productions on YouTube by some of Leaf's collabs with Sean and Dr. Menace, and I suppose it took off from there. I put some fan art of the Lady Noir trilogy on the Cipher Crusade Facebook page, and a short time later, Sean offered me a job as the artist on the team. I've been participating in ZMedia related projects ever since then. Well, besides voicing Alari, there was a point very early in the production where we didn't have any voice actresses to play Avian or Alexis. Avian's creator didn't have the means to record lines, and Alexis's original actress, Emily Lewis Berry, had to temporarily leave the production and wouldn't be back until months later. At the time, if we couldn't get any actresses, production would have had to have been suspended to August of 2014, and well, that would have been pretty bad. I mean, no kidding. I grew quite concerned about this, so I tried to think of ways to help out. First off, I used my DeviantArt page to post a casting call for Avian, and I had absolutely no idea what would happen next. I had only been on DA for around a year and didn't even have 100 watchers yet, so I thought the chances were slim that there would be any offers at all. But to my surprise, within a few days of posting, I had gotten 5 offers total to audition for Avian, one of them being Author Jack, who got the part for Avian. Now for Alexis, when I heard that Emily left the production, I knew that we were basically back at square one with yet another important character without an actress, but I had no immediate solution to offer. In order to do Alexis, we needed an energetic actress with a southern Louisiana accent. We were quite lucky that I had a very close family member who fit the description perfectly. That person was in fact my stepmom, Jennifer Hanna, who was born and raised in Louisiana and was more than happy to help out in the production. My character, Alari Cuso, is the flyer of the Crusaders and the youngest of them, as she is around 16 to 17-ish years old. She's a genetic experiment of sorts. There's not a lot I can reveal in terms of her backstory. Sorry guys, no spoilers here. But I'll tell you what I can. In terms of what she exactly is, Alari is a human-avian hybrid, or a mutant. Her DNA is mostly composed of that of a regular human, with a rather small percentage of osprey DNA spliced with that. Her wingspan is around 15 to 16 feet in length, and she's around 5'10" in height. Alari has 3 trademark things that are important in her design and story. The first being the peacock feather in her hair that acts as her visual iconic detail. The second is the herbal remedy strung to her hip. And the third is the teardrop necklace, which is her most prized possession. Alari's personality is best described as, I'd say, calm though clever. She's incredibly observant of her surroundings, examining others around her. She has to, because of the nature of her enemies. As of late, she's developed a slight impatient streak when under stress or when the stakes are high, and she can get swept up in the moment without thinking ahead. Alari's motivation in the story now is to help others, especially the Crusaders, because until she found out about them, she lived as an outcast, away from man and the government. She sees the Crusaders as her equals, a group she could fit in with. However, there may be more to it than that. Anyways, I first created Alari back in September of 2013, based off of me as a character. And here's a picture of that. Okay, her original concept and story was based off of an amazing book series by James Patterson, and it was called Maximum Ride, and it was a series about a flock of several winged kid experiments living on the run from their creators and saving the world along the way. Over time, I changed her design, as you've seen in the visuals in the show, so that she'd have very curly hair. And I'll explain why in another time. Now is not the time for that.
I actually heard about this project through a casting call. The casting call for Connor Faraday and his brother Miles through one of my voice acting buddies who had also auditioned for it. I saw it. It looked interesting, so I decided might as well give it a go. Maybe I could at least get one, if not both characters. I did so, and I've been having fun ever since with these guys, specifically Connor, especially for Cipher Crusade number 2. Well, Connor's motivations are very basic, I think. He wants to help. He wants to protect people. In this story specifically, his primary goal is obviously to protect the world from the dangers that this new threat is posing, specifically Malthus. And if I were going to put it at a more personal level, I'd say that he is especially caring for Alexis. He is very concerned about her well-being, and that's shown through their adventures, especially when they're going through their little Indiana Jones phase in the Incan Temple. What I like about him is he might be considered an atypical hero, but he's also a king. He's a leader, alpha of all the werewolves in the world, and yet he doesn't let it get to his head. He considers himself just as much a part of everything that needs to go on as anybody else in these stories. Possibly because of his time before he was able to take on the role of the alpha, he was able to learn humility and his moral center, and because of that, he's able to remain humble. I like that about him, and the fact that he can be a little unsure of himself, especially around that little werefox, but overall, he does his best to remain confident and pull through for whatever his needs and challenges are for the situation. As for what my specific talent brings to the role, I guess just, well, my natural voice, obviously. My study for acting has definitely been a help in trying to pinpoint exactly how this character should sound, act, and I try to, yes, I inject a little bit of my own personality into him a little bit, just because he seems like an overall unassuming dude, even if he is a position of authority. He's relatively down to earth, at the very least in this story he is, and because of that I'm able to draw from my own personality and inject it into him, which I think is able to help bring an extra layer of life to him.
The director for the Cipher Crusade 2 approached me about 2 months before production and invited me along for the whole Cipher Crusade 2 adventure. I remember watching the first one and thinking, although it was a first-time event, it was pretty good, so I could only imagine that a whole year later what the next sequel to this whole trilogy was going to be like. In Cipher Crusade 2, I was involved with playing and voicing one of the characters, MD, the time-traveling pirate guy. I was also involved in a few other things, such as a bit of storytelling and animation. The character MD is an interesting guy of sorts. He's kind of what you would call a little unorthodox with some of the stuff he does, and just overall bizarre. But as we know so far in the story, he's very old and very knowledgeable about a lot of things. A lot of the background story to ND is hidden, but I think it's hidden for good reasons. Luna is an interesting character to be involved with a guy like ND, being a teenage female dragon. I guess it kind of adds the whole essence to the whole thing with, you know, those two being the perfect duo.
I was contacted by Sean Basinger, and he asked me to audition for the role of Malphus. I like the idea of voicing for something that is original, because most of the projects that I voice for are copyrighted, which I don't mind, because those are a lot of fun to do. But I really enjoyed being a part of something that was original.
Okay, so you're gonna do like the hand up there and just like...
It's basically gonna be kind of like I get the face and just go,
Okay, you're gonna like smack his face down into the ground?
8, because like 8, you know, like 1 for 8.
We probably don't even need green screen, just need to get a shot of him in different positions and we can cut him out, right?
I could, well, like if I do green screen, I want him like at least positioned like, you know, like this.
Yeah, well, what if you, don't you have a program that can just like cut people out of a shot or something like that?
No, I don't.
Oh, you don't have that? Okay.
I do have Photoshop, but I'll only do it for like that one picture, not the whole video.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
I do that. I did that with my.
that's what I mean, Zach. And you just have to cut him out in a still shot, you know. So.
All right.
I want a couple of them to be.
I hated all those false starts that we had. I mean, we wanted to start with live action, but then we couldn't because weather happened, and then we wanted to add all these more characters, and I'm like, dude, come on! We had a vision, can't we just see it through? I was just eager to get it done, but nothing was ever happening for so long. You think you guys were having problems waiting for Cipher Crusade 2? Dude, no! I want to make Cipher Crusade 2! Crap, I do that in real life.
One of the biggest challenges during production was probably the getting Conan here to film some of the live action stuff. Again, originally we were going to make this all live action, but then we were like, no, it's just too big. We don't have any the necessary equipment and software to do this. So we had gotten Conan down, I think, at least twice to film Cipher Crusade 2. First time, we got snowed out. We decided to do it in February. Bad idea. It snowed, there was just no time, it was freezing cold. We had set up a bunch of outside shots. Terrible, terrible idea. The second time, we had, it was in the summer, a bit better. Hot, but we did get a few things done. However, at the same time, there was just way too many scenes to film and not enough time. So, again, better to switch it to what we got in the end.
The biggest challenge for me was surprisingly just getting it done, because this took about 3 years to work on. I remember that we actually had so much into it. Like at one point it was a fighting game, it was a side scroller. It was going to go back to the original system, but then we went to another system, then we went back to this system, and it was a mess. But in the end, we finally organized it, and we were able to bring this up to production, and I'm very excited about how it all turned out, especially with like the direction we decided to take in terms of the style. That's something I really love. Just the amazing art style is very good, and I can't wait to see how we excel it to future projects. Most of the time, I actually would help out in terms of not only voice acting, but I would help out in terms of reading drafts for the script and get a chance to actually look at them and say like, oh, let's fix this. But most of the time I didn't have a chance to usually say that. Like, I would actually think that I liked it for how it was. There weren't that many corrections I had to say. There were like usually a few lines like that I had to fix here, like in terms of what Menace or Xavier had to say or any other characters, but overall it was still not that bad, and I liked it.
Recording for Connor's voice is actually very easy. If you have already watched Cipher Crusade and listened to him there, and you're watching this interview here, you can tell that he and I'm using my natural voice whenever I voice him. I might go a little bit deeper just to make him sound a little bit more authoritative. At the very least, he's trying to show that he is that he knows what he's doing, even if he's not entirely sure himself. But overall, I don't really have to manipulate my voice in order to give him a character, which might be part of the reason why I enjoy voicing him so much. There's a bit towards the end of the series where they're in the middle of the big fight and the wizard guy is yelling at him, "Werewolf, do this, do that," and he just turns around and says, "I have a name, you know." I just like that about it. I don't know what it is. It's just, hey, I'm a guy too. Look, I might be big and covered in fur and everything, but come on. We're all in this together. Treat me like an equal or something, will ya? I don't know. It was just fun to record. I did it a couple of times just because I wanted to keep on doing it. Okay, that's it for that one, I think.
Everyone kind of did their part. We got all the cast back. Unfortunately, Emily Lewisberry wasn't available to reprise the role of Alexis, so that went to Jennifer Hanna. But everyone else was back. Everyone else was ready, and we just, took off. I used whatever I could from the live action shoots to use in the production. We kind of, use those as kind of like the in-between cutscenes, if you will. And Kelsey, Conan, Dragon Rider, and Rory got all the pictures done in a great time, and I went right to work.
The first one we're gonna do is Connor Faraday. I did Connor Faraday before, but it was a little bit different. It wasn't chibi like it was before. And so what we're going to basically be doing is drawing a bunch of sketches on here. And let's get started. So here we are drawing the basic sketches of basically just the basic geometric shapes that we're going to be using. Alright, that works for me. Okay, guys, I really wish I could do a little more for you guys, but if I wasn't on such a time crunch right now, I'd be able to do a little bit more. There's a little cute Connor face for you. Oh, look at that cute Connor face. Okay, so let me just do something here. Thanks a lot, you guys, for watching, and little signature of mine. So, thanks a lot, you guys, for watching, and be sure to check me out on my DeviantArt page, and be sure to stay tuned for more chibi things in the future, and I can actually put some work into this thing. So, maybe I'll clean this up and put it on DeviantArt, I'm not sure. But, until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video of how I like to draw little cute things. And thanks a lot, you guys, and bye-bye.
In terms of talent, though, I would say that probably voice acting would probably be the one that I would actually contribute the most. Not only that, but I would also contribute my own host of graphics because I'm actually learning how to use Illustrator and create graphics. Such as in Cipher Crusade 2, all the graphics for all the evidence that's actually used was actually made by me on Illustrator. Little fun fact is that I actually made all of those in just a single day. Like, I actually just spent a whole day just working on them from like dawn till dusk. It was fun.
I was a little bit concerned that it didn't have nearly as much live action as the original did, but hey, Sean's a miracle worker. He made it happen, and he made it look good. I just drew pretty pictures.
Okay, what we have here is, switch to brush there, are my Conan Bell sketches, as you can plainly tell. These sketches right here are ones that I personally sketched out for the project. Now, the thing that makes Conan Bell so interesting is the fact that he has multiple costumes. So he needed to have sketches that preserved his body posture while still allowing for me to change his outfit. And so what I did was I sketched in special things like his leaf, but also things down there like his belt, which would normally be reserved for his Conan Bell outfit and not his Fighting Leaf outfit. The point is to make something that looks good, not necessarily just to follow the pencil outline, although the pencil outline is definitely necessary. While I do these, I usually have my Pandora radio blaring something. Usually it's from my deeply emotional stuff, if it's for deeply emotional characters like Conan Bell. But I also have a comedy station for when I'm drawing characters like Husky or Clancy and Frank. Now, what I do from there is I create a layer underneath the outline, and I pick whatever color is appropriate. Usually I have references to use, and I apply the color directly underneath the outline so that I don't have to worry about making a mess of the outline that I made. It would technically be faster if I could connect these lines and just use a paint bucket to fill them all in, but that was not really an option in this case, because this is not terribly slow either. It's a little bit faster than, going through the entire drawing and seeing which spots of the outline need to be connected. but usually, if you can make a nice little outline like this, you can just use the paint bucket to fill that in, and yeah, it's almost like filling it in with the paint bucket from the outline layer. While I was not the sketch artist for even half of the characters, the times that I did have to sketch characters myself, I had a very, very nifty little tool here that I got at a comic book convention one time. This is the best pose mannequin that I've ever had. It is a 20th anniversary Red Power Ranger, and it is perfectly proportioned to the Red Ranger's body type, which is very good for the general male build. I use this guy in particular for posing Conan, for making his poses. It's got lots and lots of beautiful articulation everywhere, and yeah, it was very, very useful for putting together these poses. And also, if the need had arisen, I have a Pink Ranger too.
Let me tell you right now, for 6 weeks straight, I did not get a lot of sleep. I was basically just, going, right at it. Every week I was working on one chapter, and then I'd move on to the next chapter. I'd try to, get ahead, try to get, try to be on time, would set up, like a week between each chapter was released so that I would have time to edit at the same time. I was very worried because I was like, will people remember to come back and play each chapter? Because that's like a week of not playing the game, so I wasn't sure if people were gonna remember that, oh yeah, that's right, new chapter. So I had Conan and a few others put up trailers and reminders on Facebook, come play the game, next chapter's up. But yeah, I did not get a lot of sleep. I was basically going, 7 days a week, just getting it all done, rendering each part, making sure everything was okay. Had a number of malfunctions, like certain characters with gray color palettes. For some reason, they would become transparent, and I still don't know why. I guess it's just the way they were, cut out on the transparent background on GIMP. But it was basically a marathon for me. I love editing. I've done editing for Conan and his show, his reviews sometimes, but it was a great strain, needless to say. Lot of fun. Never doing it like that again. I'm gonna plan like a year in advance before we do Cipher Crusade 3. I'm not even gonna I'm gonna have everything edited before I even put up a trailer.
Well, it's actually very simple. You see, I use a program called Effects Lab, which actually is my personal favorite program to use whenever it comes to special effects. It's also the same program that I used to create those lightsaber effects that were way back when we did Joe the Shopkeeper. And it's still a program I love using. I don't get to use that much because I don't find myself editing like that many high skill effects that much nowadays. But I still have it in case I need to use it. What I did was that I actually took a glow effect and then just morphed it a bit, in which that I would actually, over the course of time, make it go from something small to something bigger and bigger and bigger. In fact, a little fun fact is that I actually based this portal effect on the effect from Super Paper Mario, in which that there's actually a portal going on in the background that's constantly growing as the story progresses. And it's something that I took to heart and actually put it in my mind and thought, hey, how can I use this to do Cipher Crusade? And basically just made one long, 5-minute clip of just that portal expanding. It's just at one point, and then every minute it would expand to a new size. It was very fun. The amount of time it probably took me to make it was it looks like it probably would have taken a long time, but it actually was something that I made in like an hour, and most of that was just the rendering time, just rendering it into that AVI file that I wanted. The actual time it just took to make it was like 15 minutes. It's a very quick effect. I basically just trained myself to go through Effects Live, just to go through really quickly, get an idea, and was able to work out something good with it.
The animation for Cipher Crusade 2 was a bit of a process in itself. Sean, our director, wanted to have something a bit unique this time around. He wanted an introduction that was both telling his story in a form of kind of like a storybook, or just a weird way of puzzling the whole thing together, and a way of telling the entire backstory within 4 to 5 minutes. And so what came to my mind was maybe doing something with kind of making a cartoon-like backstory with meshing scenes and transitions, and being able to put the credits to the actors within the actual animation itself, which actually, in case, it turned out really nicely. A lot of times I was kind of winging the whole, oh, what should I do next with this? It wasn't really planned, but even so, it turned out nicely anyway. The whole animation process in itself didn't take all that long, but if I was to sum it up in hours, I would say that the intro took maybe about 48 to 52 hours of animation time.
I hope to see a lot more stealth and subtle awesomeness from Fighting Leaf in the future, because he's been doing a lot of the overt fighting stuff, even though he's supposed to be a ninja. And really, his subtlety and the art of stealth has been really underplayed throughout most of the series.
Without giving away spoilers, I am actually really excited about something I'm planning to do with Menace, involving him actually learning about his new powers and his new abilities, especially since he's discovered that he's gonna get some new powers along the way, and is gonna basically be able to get even stronger than what he is now, and is even gonna plan to go on a big grand adventure. I won't spoil anything, but let's just say that it's gonna be awesome.
What I hope to see in the future of the series is obviously more development, more world building for the world of Avalon and the Crusaders, especially with how Cipher Crusade 2 ended. It's definitely going to end up changing things, and I'm looking forward to seeing where these characters go, how they develop, and how they deal with the situations that arise now that things are fundamentally different. And specifically how Connor is going to be dealing with it, both as Werewolf Alpha, how that's going to affect his role, both personally, and how he's going to deal with it for all the werewolves in the world. But also, I'm going to be looking forward to seeing his relationship with Alexis begin to grow and evolve, because I really enjoy a lot of the scenes that I'm able to do between those two. It's just really cute, and Alexis is able to put him on an edge that nobody else is. He's most unsure of himself around her, but at the same time, he kind of likes the vulnerability, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all comes around. So yeah, more world building, seeing how Connor develops both personally and in his role as a leader, and also how it's going to affect all the other characters in this series, as well as future villains, because this series does a good job with their villains.
This series has a lot of potential. So much so that I find it sad that so few people have seen it, especially since we put our all into the content we create. I hope that in the future, before our series comes to a close, that we'll have gained a much larger fan base than what we have now. Now, within the context of the series itself, I hope to see the universe we've created spread out even further than before in terms of the setting. I've heard that some of the other guys on the team want to do an episode on the moon or in space. I think this would be a fun idea, as well as a fun challenge, seeing as though we'd have to find a way to transfer the setting of outer space which is usually very dependent on visuals and a visual representation of outer space, and we'd have to transfer all of that into pure audio, which is incredibly challenging. It's something I've never heard before. So all in all, I'm just excited to see where the story goes from here.
When it comes to the future of the Cipher Crusade series, I'm hoping maybe something will become more of it later down the road. Maybe something a bit bigger than just a bunch of YouTube videos. It might become, I don't know, something you see in the actual theaters itself. Because it has an interesting cast of characters and the story in itself. And it really does kind of have all those qualities in what you would see in a really great movie. But what I'm really looking forward to with the Cipher Crusade is the last and third final chapter of this amazing trilogy.
I would of course love to do this again. This was challenging, it was hard, but it was fun all the entire time. So I'm really looking forward to when we get a chance to work on the third one, which is not going to be for a while because we have a whole bunch of other projects we want to try focusing on, but this is still in the back burner and I'm really looking forward to what we can do with it.
I don't know. This is really kind of hard, and I don't like hard, so I don't. Yes, this was awesome.
I would love to keep on doing this. Doing something like this again, absolutely. I've had a lot of fun. The character development has been awesome. Reading these stories as they come out has been just a real hoot. And as an actor, I'm able to really get behind a lot of the decisions that are made. And Connor as a character is somebody that I will continue to enjoy voicing for a while yet, I believe. I don't see any end to this. Well, there will obviously be an end, but I'm going to see it through to the end.
I would most definitely love to do something like this again. This production was a lot of fun, and the end result turned out fantastic. You can be sure that I'll partake in the next big project.
This is definitely something that I would not mind doing again and totally being involved in. For the most part, this whole adventure has actually become one of the highlights of my YouTube career.
What was up with that post-credit scene? This.